Okay, Year 2, welcome to your final maths video of the week. Today is Thursday, but tomorrow is Friday, which is a bank holiday, so we won't be posting a maths video then. This is also the lesson that you will need to upload your independent work for onto Class Dojo by tomorrow afternoon, so please don't forget to do that. We're continuing on with temperature today. We actually won't be doing any work in our workbook today because you've done the two worksheets, but we have a bit of a different activity for you today. We will start off by marking the work from yesterday, so you can use your workbook for that. You will need some blank paper and a pencil and of course your partner. And if you do want to do the challenges that we're setting today, you will probably need some colouring pencils or felt tips. More about that later. So for yesterday's work, we were estimating temperatures. So just like when we marked yesterday, I'm giving you the answers that the book has suggested, but anything a little bit close to this is good. So for A, the temperature was about 38 degrees Celsius. So if you said 39 or 40, that was okay, or 37 or 36. For question B, the temperature was about 32 degrees Celsius. For C, it was about 49 degrees Celsius. For D, it was about 21 degrees Celsius. For E, it was about 3 degrees Celsius. And for F, it was about 11 degrees Celsius. Question 2 asked you to fill in the blanks with either less than or more than. A, the temperature is less than 90 degrees because the line did not go all the way up to 90 degrees Celsius, the mercury line. B, the temperature is more than 6 degrees Celsius. C, the temperature is less than 30 degrees Celsius. And for question 3, you were filling in the blanks with a number of degrees. Again, anything close to this, 1 or 2 above or 1 or 2 below is just fine. So for 3A, the body temperature of the girl is about 37 degrees Celsius. That makes sense with the smile on her face, a bit more sensible than the question yesterday, I think. 3B, the temperature of the soup is about 42 degrees Celsius. In question C, the temperature of the room is about 18 degrees Celsius. If you did the challenge yesterday, you were figuring out which temperature needed to go in which box on the table. So we really had to use our logic skills, our reasoning skills here. Let me get out a pen. Elliot checked the temperature outside his house at a certain time on Monday. He did the same every day for another 4 days. Now the clues we were given were the highest temperature was on a Thursday, the lowest temperature was on a Monday, the temperature on Wednesday was more than 20 degrees Celsius, the temperature on Friday was less than the temperature on Monday. So let's start with that top clue, A. The highest temperature was on Thursday. Looking through the options we have, we can see that the highest temperature was 23, so we can mark that one off. That went in the Thursday box. B, the lowest temperature was on Monday. Looking at the options we have, we can see that the lowest number here is 13, so 13 degrees Celsius was the lowest temperature. That went in Monday's box on the table. C, the temperature on Wednesday was more than 20 degrees Celsius. So the options we have left are 17 degrees Celsius, 21 degrees Celsius, and 16 degrees Celsius. Only one of those is more than 20 degrees Celsius, so we can cross that one off. That one went in the Wednesday box on the table. Finally, the temperature on Friday was less than the temperature on Tuesday. So our options for Tuesday and Friday's temperatures are 17 degrees Celsius or 16 degrees Celsius. If Friday has to be the lesser, the lower temperature, then Friday must be 16 degrees Celsius. That goes in the Friday box, leaving 17 degrees Celsius as our option, the only option left for Tuesday, so that went in Tuesday's box. If you did the explanation or research challenge about why do different places have different temperatures at the exact same time, there were lots of different answers you could have had. So here's just an example. I said there are lots of different factors which affect temperature, but one of the main reasons different places have different temperatures is that they are all in different places on the Earth. Places close to the equator, the imaginary line running around the middle of the planet, are hotter because they are closer to the sun. The further away from the equator a place is, the colder its temperature will be. Places are also closer to the sun and get more hours of sunlight during summertime because the Earth is slightly tilted, that means leaning to one side. During winter months, places are further from the sun and get fewer hours of sunlight. You don't have to know any of that at this stage. Even adults sometimes find it tricky to wrap their head around, and I had to look at pictures with diagrams to help me phrase that answer correctly. But I know lots of you are interested in science and in space, so I thought it was an interesting question to add in. Now, today, we're going to be comparing temperatures. So have a look at this table here. 5 children around the world measured the temperature in their city at the same time. They recorded their results in a table. So we can see a table here labelled temperatures around the world. The top row shows the different places and the bottom row shows the temperatures. You can pause the video here in just a second and have a chat with your partner. What facts can you learn from this table? We looked at tables a bit last week. Is there anything straight away that you can already figure out from this table? I've got some questions for you on the next slide. So here are some questions. Question A, what was the coldest place? Question B, what was the hottest place? Question C, how many degrees hotter was London than Edmonton? Question D, Wellington was something degrees colder than Dublin. And E, which city do you think is closest to the equator? Why? I've got my answers to this on the next slide and I'm going to explain how I came up with them. But if you think you can have a go at any of these straight away, you can have a chat with your partner about them. So here are the answers I came up with. A, what was the coldest place? So for this question, I looked at all of the different temperatures that were listed. And I could see there was the number 13, the number 16, the number 6, the number 31, and the number 10. Without knowing anything about temperature, I could tell you that 6 is the smallest number here. Luckily, we do know lots about temperature, so I can tell you that 6 degrees Celsius is colder than all of the others. So what was the coldest place? It was Edmonton. What was the hottest place? Just like question A, I looked at all of the numbers we had, and I can see that 31 is the highest number, or the biggest number. So 31 degrees Celsius is the highest temperature, meaning Accra is the hottest place. Question C was a little bit trickier. How many degrees hotter was London than Edmonton? I started off by making a number sentence using the facts that I had. I know that London was 16 degrees Celsius, and I know that if I take away some of those degrees, I'm not sure how many yet, I will end up at Edmonton's temperature, which was 6 degrees. So 16 take away something equals 6. I can change that number sentence around a bit to say that 16 take away 6 equals something. That's the kind of number sentence that's much easier to work with. I can figure out from my head that 16 take away 6 is equal to 10. So London was 10 degrees Celsius hotter than Edmonton. Question, oh, that shouldn't say A, that should say D. Very strange. Question D, Wellington was something degrees colder than Dublin. I was able to work out that Wellington was 3 degrees colder than Dublin. Just like in question C, I started off by making a number sentence using the information that I did have. I know that Wellington was 10 degrees. I know that if I added on some amount of degrees, not sure how many yet, I would end up at Dublin's temperature, which was 13 degrees Celsius. So I can say 10 plus something equals 13. Again, I can figure that one out in my head. 10 plus 3 equals 13. So I know that Wellington was 3 degrees Celsius colder than Dublin. This last question, which is also labelled A, sorry about that, was a bit to do with the challenge that we talked about from yesterday. And it's not really a maths question as such. We need to be able to read the table to figure it out, but we also need to know a little bit about geography. Which city do you think is closest to the equator? Why? I said, I think Accra is closest to the equator because it was the hottest place. Remember, we've talked in geography and in the challenge at the start of this question about countries closer to the equator being hotter than countries further from the equator. So that was the reasoning behind my answer there. Now you are going to do guided practice with your partner. This time we're not comparing temperatures in different places, we're comparing temperatures in the same place but in different months. March, April, May, June and July. To make it a little bit trickier, I haven't given you all of the information in the table though. Can you read these two thermometers, one for June and one for July, to fill in the rest of the information on the table? Then, can you answer these 4 questions? Which is the hottest month? Which is the coldest month? How much hotter was it in June than May? And it was something degrees Celsius colder in April compared to July. You don't need to draw out the whole table. You certainly don't need to draw the thermometers. You can just write June equals or July equals, but you might find it easier to look at all of the temperatures together in a table. Good luck! Here are some answers for guided practice. June, if we look at this thermometer here, I've said it is 17 degrees Celsius. This thermometer scale counts up in 2s. I can see that the mercury line stops between 16 and 18, and it seems to be exactly halfway between the two. Halfway between 16 and 18 is 17, so I said in June it was 17 degrees Celsius. July's thermometer was a little bit easier to read because the mercury line went straight up and stopped at this line here right at the 20 degrees Celsius mark. So I said in July it was 20 degrees Celsius. Now that I have all those values filled in, I can figure out which was the hottest month. The hottest month was July because 20 degrees Celsius is the highest temperature there, or the biggest number. Which was the coldest month? It was March because 9 degrees Celsius is the coolest temperature up there, or the lowest temperature. C, how much hotter was it in June than May? Just like I did on the last example, we need to do a number sentence problem to figure this out. I can say that June was 17 degrees Celsius and May was 14 degrees Celsius. Between 17 and 14 there are 3, so I said it was 3 degrees Celsius. And similarly for question D, it asked you to compare the temperatures in April and July. In April it was 11 degrees Celsius and in July it was 20 degrees Celsius. We can figure out that there are 9 degrees between 11 and 20 degrees, either by subtracting, by counting on, or maybe by remembering your number bonds to 20. So independent work today needs to be uploaded to Class Dojo so Miss Gardner and I can have a look. So please do that by tomorrow afternoon at the latest. What we've got here are some thermometers and a table because Robbie was measuring temperature in his garden. Every 2 hours he got up and measured the temperature using a mercury thermometer and he wrote down the values. But not all of the temperatures are filled in on the table. Your task is to read the thermometers, figure out what temperatures they show, and write that into the table. Remember, we don't need to be exactly right. Some of these are a bit tricky to read, so you can say about what temperature it is, because we won't be cross if your answer is 1 degree hotter than what I think is the answer. So on the next slide, there are some questions. So your first task is to read the thermometers and fill in the table. Your next task is to answer the questions. For this, you don't need to draw any thermometers. If you would like to print out, or if you can print out the file that's on the Class Dojo story, that might be easier. If not, all you really need to do is draw out the table. So I'm sure an adult could help with that. And then you can fill it in, hopefully independently. And I'll show you the questions now. So we've got 4 questions. Question A, at what time was the garden the coldest? So that's asking you for which is the coldest temperature on the table. B, at what time was it the hottest? C, how much hotter was it at 10 o'clock compared to 4 o'clock? And D, which of these statements is true? Now there's already a clue in that statement, in that question. It says which of these statements is true. We know that we use the word is, that's a singular verb, when there's only one that we're talking about. If more than one of these statements were true, the question would say which of these statements are true. But because it says which of these statements is true, that's a clue that only one of them is true. You can choose from the garden got colder throughout the morning, the garden got warmer throughout the morning, or the garden got warmer for a bit and then got cold again. So for the challenges for this lesson, again I've gone for chili challenges. So this is the mild challenge. It's got a bit of a kick to it. It's going to be a little bit tricky, but it shouldn't be too difficult. Especially if you enjoyed pictographs last week, I think you'll like this. So I've given you a table of some temperatures in the Netherlands over the last few decades. I'm challenging you to make a pictograph to show these temperatures. And then underneath I've asked, has it gotten hotter or colder in the Netherlands over the years? And why do you think that is? This is a challenge that really you would probably want to do with someone in your family, because you might need to do a bit of research about this one. The hot chili challenge is, getting a bit more difficult here. Here we've got a table of temperatures in Germany over the last few decades. So we've got 4 different decades with 4 different temperatures. Again, challenging you to make a pictograph to show this one, to show these data. And I'd like you to think carefully about your key, about how many degrees each picture will represent. And I'm asking the same question, has it gotten hotter or colder in Germany over the years? And why do you think that is? Again, you might need to do a little bit of research for that one. And finally, the spicy challenge. Now this one is difficult. These temperatures show this table shows different temperatures in Qatar over the last 100 years or so, but also temperatures that scientists predict we might see in Qatar in the future. Again, challenging you to do a pictograph to show this data, And I'd like you to think about your key, about how many degrees each picture will represent. And the same question, has it gotten hotter or colder in Qatar over these years, and why do you think that is? In the file on the Class Dojo story, I've put a little bit of information down the bottom about where I got these data from. I have changed them slightly, but if you do want to do a bit more research about if it's gotten hotter or colder and why that might be, the links I've given in that bottom page might help, but you will probably need an adult to help you read them because they're not really written for children. Good luck with all the work, and we can't wait to see your independent work uploaded to Class Story by tomorrow afternoon and any extra challenges you get up to. Bye!